All right, Dale, it's good to see you this morning. I think we're set up now to go. Uh, how are you doing this morning? It's a beautiful day in Spring Hill, Tennessee. The temperature is lovely and the sun is shining. How's Texas today? Well, it's a lovely day here. Got up early this morning, took a long walk, so it's been a good day already. It's beautiful here outside. Got up to about 98 yesterday. It's supposed to be 60 today, so it changes a lot around here. Well, Dale, we've done a couple of webinars over the last couple of weeks. We wanted to do another one this week, and we're very thrilled today to have with us as our guest Chase Turner. Chase, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
So Chase, tell us a little bit about the work you're doing. We were talking earlier about how it seems like that in this current climate that we find ourselves, that a lot of people's lives have been kind of turned over, and a lot has changed in a lot of people's lives. And even we're talking about preachers, how preachers' schedules have changed, and we're doing things. Some of us are doing things we've never really done before. But maybe yours isn't quite that way. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Now I'm working in a ministry called Spanish Missions, and it's a global outreach to every Spanish-speaking country in the world. And so it's 99% done online. There's a little bit of mail-out work that goes with it, but as far as face-to-face interaction, it's all through the computer. And so, no, my day-to-day, if anything, has increased because the United States obviously is not the only country affected by the virus right now. And so all of the people in the Spanish-speaking world are also staying at home. And thankfully, my busier schedule means there's more people looking to study, more preachers looking to, while they're at home, spend more time digging into God's Word. And we have about 30,000 plus students online. And so anytime they have a question, whether it's a Bible question or an administrative question, with studying online, I get those questions. And I work with Larry White, and he started the ministry about 45 years ago, and it has just exploded as far as it going online 10 years ago, to the point that last year we had over 45 million Bible studies downloaded through our program. And so it's been incredible and maintaining right now about that pace.
So in theory, somebody, if each student asked 2 questions a day, you'd answer 60,000 questions a day.
Roughly, yes. And I
feels that way.
I never wake up and wonder, am I going to have anything to do today? There's always an email waiting.
So Chase, how did you get involved in that work? What interested you in that in the beginning?
Well, when I was a freshman at Freed Hardeman, I went on a mission trip with a group of people down to Honduras, and the ability to speak Spanish, I think for some people is a real struggle, although they can learn to do it. For other people, it may come a little more naturally. And I was fortunate that it came a little more naturally to me. And so my degree from Freed was in Spanish. And then after I graduated, I had the opportunity, I had a phone call kind of randomly from some people that knew I was interested in doing mission work. And so they were looking for somebody to come on board with this ministry with Larry, and they've been looking for a while and tried out a few people. No one seemed to work for this reason or that. And it was a time in my life where it was just a great fit, and I never thought I would be in full-time ministry. In fact, I told several people I wouldn't for a number of reasons. And now here I am, 12 years into this work, and plan on doing it for the rest of my life. It's just such an incredible outreach to be able to help that many people all over the world.
What a great mission. What a great work. Thank you for what you do for the kingdom. We appreciate you very much. Chase, tell us a little bit about your family before we get into our main topic of discussion.
Sure. My wife and I, Kristen, met in Mexico, actually, while we were studying. I was on a trip from Preach, she was on a trip from Ohio, and we got married right after we graduated in 2006. And now we have 4 kids. We live here in Monroe, Louisiana. And she actually just took the kids to my in-laws' house to spend a little time with them. And the reason I asked her to do that is because I was recording a Spanish lesson yesterday, And about 7 minutes into it, my 3-year-old is in the background with a blood-curdling scream. I didn't want that to go on today while we were visiting.
Um,
All right.
was the scream in the Hispanic language or in the English language?
He speaks both at 3, yes. It's a universal scream. And it could have been something as small as he dropped a Lego or not getting along with a sibling. And so my wife already homeschools all of our kids. And so, like I said, our world really hasn't been turned upside down a whole lot, like a lot of ministers and really everybody. But I think ministers have really fallen into a great opportunity, but also have found some great challenges. I mean, if you've got a really strong marriage and you're used to being around your spouse all the time, fantastic. I'm blessed to be in that position. But at the same time, for ministers that need that break sometimes or need that office time and they may not be in a position to go, and a number of other issues may pop up with being around each other all the time, can certainly cause some stress.
So you mentioned a lot of stress. There's a lot of anxiety, and that's a great segue into our purpose for being together today. Some people might say it was coincidental. Some might say it was something different than just coincidence or luck or something like that. But you have written a tremendous book. I have a copy of it here. It's called Trials, A Journey from Anxiety to Peace. And a lot of people in our world right now are feeling a lot of anxiety. And they view what we're dealing with certainly as a tremendous trial in our life. And so this book, I've read this book 3 times. I read it early on when you sent me a manuscript copy of it before it was printed. I've read it 2 more times since then. It's a tremendous book, and I think it would be a great blessing to any family, anybody's life who is struggling right now with these trials. So we wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about the book and to even talk about the background of the book.
Sure. I was speaking at a conference in Minnesota, and the topics were the tough sayings of Jesus. And I can remember like yesterday going up there, and the section of scripture they gave me was in Luke 9, where Jesus is approached by the man who had just lost his father. And he says, "Come and follow me." And he said, "But first let me go and bury my father." And as I prepared for that lesson, I thought there are a number of things that make a teaching difficult. And when I started studying there, that was in April, and I was about to start teaching a series of lessons at Jackson Street where I attend services. And as I was preparing for those lessons, I thought, well, I was thinking about a series of lessons I could teach on hard teachings of Jesus. And then I got to Matthew 6 and Philippians 4 is obviously Paul teaching. But when I read, "Do not worry," or "be anxious for nothing," I began to rack my brain of what is harder than that? What is more applicable than that to every single person that's ever lived? Do not worry, because there's a lot of teachings we see that while they apply to everybody, they may not be something that everybody deals with. If you look at teachings on stealing or killing or drinking or whatever the issue may be, a lot of people don't deal with those kinds of things, but nearly everybody, if not everybody, has dealt with or will deal with stress and anxiety. And so my decision at that point was to develop a series of lessons on anxiety within marriage, within parenting, within finances, within work, within health and faith, and grief and leadership, and all of those things, because it's segmented really. Some people may not have any anxiety at work, but they may have a hard time coming home from work, or maybe their health isn't good. So I thought about what can I come up with to help people deal with each one of these areas. And originally, as I did at the end of every class, I came up with trials.
So talk a little bit, if you will, about the title of the book itself and how that came about as you're going into this.
Sure. And so the journey from anxiety to peace was originally trails, because I thought the idea of a trail being a journey. And then as I got to putting all the lessons together, I thought, I think if I switch the I and the A, trials is more of a play on words with anxiety. And so that was kind of how the title came about. And then the acronym breakdown really just kind of, I thought, flowed pretty well from the key in every relationship. To me, anxiety is the result of a relationship. Every bit of anxiety comes from more than just one person. And so transparency, communication is really the foundation for not having anxiety. And transparency is one of those things that is hard for most people because we don't want people to know everything about us. And people may not have to know everything about us, but when we deal with anxiety, when we deal with relationships, communication is the key to getting out of all trouble. Any problem that comes up, transparency is key. Then I can continue going forward, just breaking down the acronym if you want me to keep
No,
going.
please, that's what we want to like people to see. You got transparency, okay?
Transparency is first, and then it goes to responsibility. And this, to me, is the two-edged sword, because when we think about our present moment, we have to be responsible for the decisions we've made in the past. And that, for a lot of people, is different because nobody has a perfect past, but everybody's got a different past. And so the things I did yesterday, I need to be responsible for today. And then at the same time, I've got to make decisions right now responsibly so that tomorrow's easier. And that kind of leads into the I with intentionality. I have to make every decision today with intention, on purpose, so that tomorrow will be a little easier. And so from transparency to responsibility to intentionality, right in the heart of all that with the A is appreciation. And this one is something we teach our kids from childhood. I mean, from say thank you. And we force kids to be grateful, hoping that they learn that as they get older. But when I think about relationships, every relationship, if somebody's willing to follow this acronym, they're willing to be transparent, they're willing to be responsible, they're willing to be intentional, we have to be appreciative. We've got to be not just thankful for what they do. It's more than saying thank you, but it's knowing people well enough to know how they want to be thanked. And for me and my wife, and thankfully we've never had any issues. We've never had anxiety within our marriage, and we've really followed this acronym. I wouldn't say unintentionally, but we've always been transparent with each other and responsible, intentional. For years, whenever we were newlyweds, I would buy her flowers on occasion for a given thing. And after a while, she said, you can stop buying me flowers anytime. That's kind of a waste of money. I would prefer to have your time, not the flowers. And so her honesty with me saved me a lot of money. But at the same time, it allowed me to show her appreciation in the way she wanted to receive it. And love is a lot that way as well. And then from the
that's always a good thing when you show your wife appreciation, isn't it?
Yes. It's never been a bad thing. So, but then the L, and when I think about ministers, L is easily the hardest, and that's limits. We have got to know our limits. And so many times we want to be that yes man. When somebody says, hey, can you come speak at before we even know what it is, yes, I want to do that. Put me on your calendar. And we may not even know what the topic is, when it is, where, any of that stuff, but we're so grateful for the opportunity to get to go and speak somewhere or to help somebody that we'll say yes before we even know what it is. And when we do that too many times, our limits get pushed. We may have the entire year booked up and not know what our schedule is going to look like. And so knowing when to say no is so important with understanding our limits. What are my limits? Can I speak once a month at another place? Can I speak twice a quarter? Whatever that is, we need to know what our limits are. And part of that is being transparent with ourselves and with our spouses and with our families and with other people, our church members, that will be affected if we're not here. And so understanding those limits, and then when we do understand those limits, simplifying the S in trials is the process of figuring out what is my best yes. What can I say yes to? Because every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. And I think a lot of ministers can attest to the fact that when we say yes to everybody else, our families most of the time take the blunt of that no. And so we've got to be able to manage our time to the extent that when we say yes to so many things, that we make sure we're saying yes to our family and what they need first and foremost. And the way this hit me the hardest, and what made me realize how important that S was I would never want my family to resent me because of obligations I've made for myself for the church. Because if they resent the church for me doing all the things for them and not doing it for them, it's going to be a hard road to go down with a family that doesn't have that connection.
So let's talk a little bit about more directly how this is affecting some people right now. You've got a section on there on parenting and anxiety, probably an area where a lot of people right now are more stressed than normal.
Yes. There's so many people, and it's funny because everybody has a different number of kids. Everybody has different ages of kids. And so how do you take a one size fits all kind of approach to dealing with anxiety and parenting right now? And I think it hinges really on being transparent amongst, parents that have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, whatever. If everybody's at home right now and everybody's schedule has been changed, we've got to be transparent with each other. If a mom can't handle 24/7 responsibilities while the husband's trying to figure out what he's going to do, or even if the situation's reversed and the dad's to stay at home and the kids are normally in school, but now they're not. I've heard a lot of schools are canceled through the end of this year, hoping to open up in the fall. There's definitely going to be some challenges that come about. And so communication, I think, is going to be key for spouses. It's not so much what can we do to entertain the kids, but how can we work together and communicate so that one person isn't doing everything, and we create a team environment.
So Chase, before we kind of wrap up, just a couple of other questions I wanted to run by you. You've mentioned stress a number of times in our conversation. And I think the first chapter in the book deals with what is stress and where does it come from. Give us kind of a brief synopsis of where you got to with that.
Sure. One of the important things when we look at the verses in Matthew 6 and Philippians 4 is he says, do not worry, do not be anxious. He doesn't say don't stress. He doesn't say don't prepare yourself for. And so the definition of stress is just the application of pressure on something. Anxiety is what we do with that stress, and anxiety in a very general sense. And so stressors come from all over the place. And some things we can control and some things we cannot control. What we couldn't control, everybody at the beginning of January, end of December, were creating visions for their churches. We have this 2020 vision. Well, guess what no one foresaw?
Yeah. A lot of money was spent on that too.
Yes. If we could redo this year, next year, and have another 2020 vision, hopefully this will all be gone. But stress is coming from everywhere right now. And for a lot of ministers, stress may not have been in the home because they weren't there all the time. They were, being able to help people and minister to people and at a building or whatever it may be. So now they may be putting more stress on themselves. Spouses may be putting more stress, more pressure on each other. And so how do we deal with the pressures that are coming at us from maybe our jobs, maybe our kids, maybe our spouse? Really, all the chapters in the book deal with stressors coming at us from all over the place and how we choose to deal with those.
So here's the book, Trials, A Journey from Anxiety to Peace. I want to, in a minute, let you tell us how people can get a copy of it. But first, I want to ask one more question. I've got to ask you this question. So at the end of the book, you gave some practical suggestions on how to handle stress, ways to handle stress. And one of the illustrations was about your love for sports, and we love sports. And so this really caught my eye. And so tell us about how I think it was something about how you watch sports. So give us the practical advice on that, because a lot of people are under a lot of stress when they watch sports.
Yes. I used to love sports, loved them a lot. And one of the things I came to realize is me watching sports did not determine at all the outcome of those games. And when I realized that my love for sports and my love to watch sports did two things. One, it took up a whole lot of time that maybe I did or didn't have to watch those sports. But two, when I realized, man, I'm getting upset almost, stressed out that my team didn't win. Even though it gave me something to talk about with other people, spending 3 hours watching the ball game and then stressing out at the last second because we missed a field goal that would have sent us in overtime, whatever the case may be, my stress didn't make him miss or make that field goal. And so
Jeff and I would appreciate if you wouldn't talk about field goals.
Yes.
It's causing stress in our lives right now.
Sports for a lot of ministers is a big thing. Sunday afternoons, I love to watch golf. And if there's a more boring thing to watch than golf, for some people, I don't know what it may be. NASCAR, I don't know. And if you love NASCAR, I'm sorry. But golf and NASCAR are two things a lot of people watch that women just don't understand. So one of the things I did to encourage my wife to appreciate golf was I rubbed her feet. And man, if I wanted to watch golf for 3 hours, I rubbed feet for 3 hours. It was a good trade-off. And guess what that did for my marriage? Only good things. But we've got to figure out, with sports and whatever our hobbies may be, how can we reuse that time that we now have in a way that won't cause us stress and anxiety?
So you're not suggesting that if a guy loves NASCAR that he takes his wife out in the car and drives like they do in the NASCAR races, are you?
Only if it's in a convertible.
Okay. Hey, Chase, thank you for being with us. The book, again, is Trials, A Journey from Anxiety to Peace. We'll put some notes on our page for people, but tell everybody the best way if they want to order a copy of this book, if they'd like to read it. And I want to say, first of all, I would highly recommend people to read this book. I would highly recommend preachers to get a copy of this book and read it. And it would be a great time for maybe a husband and wife, if you like to read together, something you could read together to help you in your marriage as well. So tell us how we can get the book.
Sure. It's available on Amazon. It's the best place to get it. If you have Kindle Unlimited, if you're a digital reader, which so many people are going to right now, it's free on Kindle Unlimited. If you don't have Kindle Unlimited, you can get the ebook on Amazon as well. And something else I'll offer, there's a workbook that goes with it. And it's about half the size of the book. It doesn't have the illustrations, the stories, and all the fill-in stuff, but I will send a free digital copy of that workbook to anybody that wants it for small group discussion or working through with your family. If you need some family devotional stuff, really kind of develop that just for small groups or for people teaching through. Some are teaching through it on a weekly study that they're doing. And so if you want my Chase at trialsbook.com, you can mention that on your page there. If they want a free digital copy of the workbook, I'd be happy to send that to them as well.
Great. That's
Thank
good.
you. Thank you very much for being with us today, Jeff. I'll let you take us out of here.
So Chase, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Thank you for writing this book. And I think it'll be a great blessing to a lot of people. It already has been. And we appreciate your work in the kingdom and your heart for the Lord and for his people. And so we just want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it greatly. It's been a great time visiting with you guys, getting to know you a little bit better. And God bless you and the work that you're doing for the kingdom as well.
Have a great day.
As well.
Good to be with you, Dale.
Jeff, always great to hang out for a little while. Hope this will bless a lot of lives.
Yes, sir. All right, I'm going to cut us off here, hopefully.